of on February 28th, 2026, the U.S. and Israel launched over 900 airstrikes on Iranian air defense and missile sites after weeks of military buildup in the region, and at the time of this publication has escalated to over 2,000 individual targets struck in the past few days within Iran. Among the casualties is Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and in retaliation, Iran launched drone and missile attacks against Tel Aviv and cities and U.S. military bases in the surrounding Gulf states. Opinion around the world was extremely mixed, with many Iranian expats cheering the move, hoping for a return of the Shah, while many others condemned the attacks as flagrant aggression. Where this leads is uncertain, but what is increasingly clear is U.S. President Donald Trump has broken multiple campaign promises not to conduct regime change wars, shown himself to prioritize Zionist interests over concerns at home, and conveniently timed this attack to coincide with hearings of prominent politicians like the Clintons regarding their collusion with sex trafficker and likely Mossad agent Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, I'm not a crook. I burn everything I've got. Military-industrial complex. A new world order. But we are here to destroy the control over the industry of other people.
I did not trade arms for hostages.
It's been time to be a
На полный разгром гнусных захватчиков.
Myth of the 20th Century Podcast.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of the Myth of the 20th Century. We are postponing our pre-scheduled interview with our guest tonight, who is still with us to talk about current events. We are with Hangy, and my co-host Nick is joining us. Our main focus tonight is going to be about what's going on in the geopolitical space in the Middle East and what it means for the rest of us. But Hangy is a good friend, and he is going to hopefully join us for what we had planned on talking about, which is kind of like Pacific Northwest political history, and we're going to hold off on that because of just events in the world. But I wanted to give Hangy a chance to just briefly mention one of his projects in case he gets pulled away because he's got a tight schedule tonight. Just mention to us briefly what you're working on, Hangy, and then when we have time later, hopefully we can drill down. But I don't want to postpone the geopolitical stuff too much. So welcome, Hangy. Tell us quickly about kind of what you wanted to mention to us.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on. Really appreciate it. Super excited. And yeah, this stuff popping up, definitely needed to give it some attention. So other stuff can wait. We're just going to build a little suspense. Right now, as far as the music project we got going on here, it's very early. It's very hush hush. We actually got kind of a code name for it while we're in this kind of beta stage, and that's or even alpha stage, I should say. It's Operation Hairy Bush. And the short of the long of it is that we're going to actually be trying to revive the alt-right or dissident right, whatever we want to call it, kind of fringe political music scene of the West Coast and Pacific Northwest. We got people who were doing it back in the day, people who have done it internationally, who are still doing it in other countries, and there's a really interesting void that's left, because of the Ukrainian-Russian conflict that we're going to see about filling. And if you like music, like political music, you want to hang out with your buddies and not just blow your money at the local bar or the concert venues that are owned and operated by Zionists.
Ticketmaster, big corporations.
Yeah, all those price gougers and crooks. Get in touch with me. I'll be providing my Telegram information. Shoot me a DM. Let's get to know each other a little bit, and let's see how we can get everybody involved. But I promise you, this is going to be huge, guys. So keep an eye out for it.
Excellent. Well, Nick you, I'm sure, have been thinking about this topic quite a bit. I've been trying to catch up because I was on sort of a Twitter diet recently because I just realized that I have my real life that I need to attend to, but I couldn't help it last night. I just dove in because there's just so much going on. But do you want to give your take on the situation, Nick?
Well, there is a lot going on. It's history's happening. I mean, I don't even know where you want to start. It's difficult to follow. I mean, I've been following it all weekend, and when you're in the middle of a war, and especially in the way the information space works now, it's not always easy to get good information. There's a lot of fog of war. There's a lot of propaganda and information ops going on, but the short of it is, so far, it looks like, the Jeffrey Epstein bases are being wrecked.
Yeah,
all across the Gulf region. As for the entity in Palestine itself, they seem to have learned a lot since the 12-day war in terms of information control, and footage that's come out has been much more limited. But I expect there's probably a lot of damage.
So when you say the Epstein bases, when you first said that, I thought you were talking about kind of the revelations of the major figures in the world that were scandalized by the revelations.
I'm talking about American military assets throughout the entire Gulf.
I see. So the attacks on the Kuwaiti base that 4 service members, maybe 6, the estimates keep changing, but were killed at.
Bahrain, Kuwait,
Dubai, all the
Dubai.
Russian hookers posting on Instagram their flats are having missiles flown at them. Sorry, but yeah, I mean that's. Well, let me ask you this, because a lot of people have been wondering, what the hell is Iran doing by attacking these surrounding Gulf states? Do you think it's actually Iran, or is it a false flag, or why?
Well,
why would they do that? Because
first of all, that's American military assets.
Don't disagree, but here's what I've heard, and maybe you can clarify. They were not allowing U.S. usage of airspace, and they were kind of like trying to stay out of it. And this tipped them over to the side of the Americans, apparently. Okay, so explain what's going on.
So they have a problem. The Gulf states and the Epstein monarchies have a problem with having to maintain a certain level of regime credibility amongst their own populations that they keep in control with the police state, effectively. And so there's oftentimes Zog will allow them to do some kayfabe and tell lies about the extent to which they're complicit in Zionist aggression. But they are all complicit, and Iranian intelligence, of course, knows this. And that's another aspect of the strategy too, is to force the conflict on the traitor states.
Okay, but how does that, from the Iranian perspective? I get the sort of the punishment they're trying to mete out, but strategically, to be honest, I don't see how this benefits the Iranian regime, because it's just increasing the mandate for the surrounding regions to gang up on them, even if they're subtly doing that anyway. And now they're just going to overtly, target their military.
Well, they already are. They don't have any independent assets to deploy. It's all just American shit and Jewish shit. It's not. Okay. They're not going to bring anything else into the fight that isn't already in the fight.
Okay.
And you also have Ansar Allah hasn't entered the conflict yet either. And so maybe if any of those states were to involve their own militaries, which again, it's not really meaningful to say they have a military. Most of their stuff is domestic police state stuff. And if the Saudis were, then Ansar Allah can hand them their asses again.
Who is that? The Yemenis, or who's that? I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, the Mujahideen of Yemen.
Gotcha.
The ruling party that controls
What do
controls the
you
majority of the
like you said, it's hard to know where to start. I mean, like for anybody who's completely coming to this fresh, basically on Saturday, the U.S. and Israelis launched airstrikes on Iran, and they killed the Ayatollah, like their boss, basically, and a bunch of other leaders. And
he's the leader of all. He's the leader of all Shia Muslims. So.
Right. Right. And I should also mention that this is still ongoing. Like there's been, so at first there was 900 strikes. Now it's like over 2,000. So I don't know where the end of this is going to lead. The Strait of Hormuz, which is the choke point on the Persian Gulf where Iranian, Iraqi, and some of Saudi oil and the Gulf states have a pipeline or a shipping lane to get their oil out of, is under threat of closure. It's questionable if I don't know. As of when, because a couple days ago there were still ships moving around, but as of today, or when is that?
As of at least 2 days ago, and the traffic is down.
Okay,
about I think to 10%.
Okay,
it might be that they're allowing Russian and Chinese ships through, or ships bound for. It depends. It's not exactly clear, but there have also been reports of tankers being hit with cruise missiles.
Okay, gotcha.
Which is the other thing that they are hitting. I mean, they are hitting oil infrastructure throughout the Gulf.
Who's they? Who's firing the missiles?
The Iranians are,
and they're targeting Arab tankers, or just okay, or Arab oil holding tankers. Whoever flagged them is not
or
not
just
certain,
facilities. What that's led to is a shutdown. Is people they have been shutting down facilities even once they're not. There are reports that they've been damaged, but they've announced.
Gotcha.
I think it was today. One of the largest ones in Kuwait was shut down.
Not to get too in the weeds, but I mean the Shahed drone has become kind of world famous now. These are actually being used in Ukraine. This is the Iranian. At least assembled drone using parts from all over the place. But is that the cruise missile they're using, or is there a different class of weapon they're firing at these ships?
No, they're using. At the ships, I'm not sure. The reports that I saw as far as attacks on ships were missiles, but
okay, so like faster, kind of more like no wings.
Yeah, well, the primary it would have been, as far as I understand. I'm not a military expert, but from what I've observed from, open source intelligence and what have you, the primary attacks on the American assets in the region have been short range ballistic missiles and drones.
Okay.
And my understanding is very easy to use short range ballistic missiles across the Gulf, particularly Bahrain, which is right there. Mm-hmm. And it in particular has been hit pretty hard, which is the headquarters of the Fifth Fleet, the Zog's Fifth.
At the widest point in the Persian Gulf, what is it, like 200, 300 miles at most? I'm not sure. I could pull that up, but
I'm not sure. The population I know is under 1 million people.
Okay.
And if I understand correctly, I think it used to itself be a part of Iran.
Oh, it's across the water though? On the Arabian Peninsula. Interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So, all right. So that's kind of what's going on. And there has been just the propaganda machine has been ratcheted up to 6 million on every outlet available. However, what's interesting to me too is that I've been logging into like different accounts to like see kind of like different curated timelines, because the algorithm like customizes it to, your account, right? Like you're based on your browsing history and whatnot. And I will say that the normie kind of feed, which I have many of, it's not talking about this very much. Like most of the discussion I've seen has been a little bit in the mainstream. Like if you're like a dedicated news reader, you'll go to the New York Times. Of course, they're talking about it, but it's not in like the feeds of like the normie like that much. and that's just anecdotal from my own personal, assessments. But like on my political our myth of the 20th century Twitter, like it's everywhere. And so it's interesting to see how the algorithms are like siloing people, because I'm sure there's a strategy at play. Like it has to be. They've thought this through. This is not some random event. Like obviously they didn't tell us about it, but they didn't do this half-cocked. Like there was a big plan. There was a big buildup, obviously. And based on what I've seen with this administration and how the Jews have been doing things, like I think they thought this one through. And so I'm curious what the end game is here. I mean, and when
there's a lot of debate on that
yeah.
question as to whether they thought it through or not. They definitely had this planned since the 12-day war. I mean, this is just an extension of the conflict.
Well, and the Maduro thing,
looks
the Venezuela Maduro abduction seems very much like it was a stepping stone from different angles of like how you want to interpret that, but it was leading up to this thing. I mean, even when that happened, like Lindsey Graham was like already barking about Iran, and people are like, "What the heck? This is ridiculous. How can you go from this to that?" But here we are. So
yeah, here we are.
Yeah, it happened. So
I said as much at the time.
Well, yeah. I mean, I take your word for it. I just. Well, what won't they do is maybe a better question. Because I mean, look, I was reading how or seeing a video of course it's in English, so that's always a clue. Like, okay, who's the intended audience? But like the Israeli, some minister, let's just say the defense minister, I don't remember, but he was or the former prime minister, I think that's who it was. He was basically saying that Turkey is the new Iran. We gotta worry about Turkey now. So what do you think about that?
Well,
I mean,
what they won't do is they won't not rape and kill children. That would be a bridge too far for them.
They actually rape. I didn't. That just seems. I don't know.
The Epstein government of the United States, the Donald Trump Epstein government.
Oh, I thought you meant the Jewish army, like in Israel.
Oh yeah, they do raping too. They do a lot of raping.
There was that whole court case where basically, wasn't it like military personnel like sued for their right to commit rape as part of their campaigning or war activity?
Whoa.
Right? Yeah, and there was rape and torture in the prisons, in the occupations prisons, and there was a popular protest outside to get the Jewish rapists, to be let free outside the police station.
And I again, this could be skewing of the topic, bias, because I'm looking at left wing, right wing, fringe kind of political media sources, but my understanding was it wasn't just that they wanted to forgive, or what's the word I'm looking for here, pardon the people committing that, but they were saying, no, this is one of the perks of our military employment, and you will not take it away. That's how it was framed to me.
Right. Yeah.
Which lines up directly with like the war doctrine of like the Bolsheviks. And so
yes,
like that's one of the, hey, we'll let you loot and rape. Like that's what we do when you get conscripted and sent out at bayonet point.
Yeah. Which they did en masse to their own people, I think, but also after at the tail end of World War II in Germany, obviously, there was rampant accounts of that.
Literally known as the Rape of Berlin. It is a historical event because the ages were 8 to 80, and it was like at least 30,000 documented incidents. Within how big is Berlin?
Oh, I don't know. 10 square miles at least, something like that. Yeah. I'm not sure. But it's a big city. I've been there.
It's probably,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big
Yeah.
city.
10 square miles. That's not huge.
It could be
a
bigger.
relatively
I
big
just don't
city.
know, but I'm
Yeah.
just throwing it out there.
Yeah, and at 30,000 inside of like 10 miles, that's probably enough where you were like, hearing it happening. Like you could probably stand outside and hear it going down.
Well, I'm sure the metro area is a lot bigger. I mean, there's like Potsdam, there's all these like surrounding regions, but the perception of this event, I was curious about that because I found an Associated Press article which actually had no words in it. It was just pictures, and I'm sure a lot of that stuff is confabulated with propaganda, and the curation of it obviously is intentional. But it was fascinating for me because I wanted to see on the ground what the differences between the different public, we'll call them assemblies, were of people who are pro or against this attack. And the breakdown was quite interesting, I thought. So the picture covered Baghdad, Beirut, Brussels, Washington, D.C., Berlin, London, Los Angeles, New York, Richmond Hill, which is a city in Canada, Tbilisi, which is in Georgia, which is close to Iran, a place in Indonesia, Istanbul, Turkey, Izmir, I think that's Turkey too, I can't remember, Kashmir, which is disputed between India and Pakistan, Lahore, which is Pakistan, the Philippines, and of course Tehran. And they were split. The Western rallies, we'll call them, so Berlin, London, Los Angeles, New York, Richmond Hill, Canada, and Tbilisi, they were all pretty much Iranian expats, mind you. So they had like pictures of that, the Shah's son, Reza Pahlavi, the second or the first, I don't know. And
Pahlavi.
and they had pictures of like, there was this weird, like in I think it was New York. I'll put it in the show's slideshow, but there was a woman, let's just say either in Los Angeles or New York, who was Persian appearing, and she had face paint of the Iranian flag, the American flag, and the Israeli flag on her face. And then there are other rallies, like they're just like, thank you, or make Iran great again, wearing like the Trump style hat. So those are like the four like in favor of this. I don't know if that was, astroturfed, like they're sent out to some of it I'm sure is like real. I mean, I remember
Well, they exist. The Iranian diaspora.
I know
is
some of
real,
these people. Like they don't like the Islamic regime.
Well, they should be sent back to Iran, and they should be hung from cranes.
All right. Some of the views expressed in this show are not necessarily the views of everyone, but yeah, we'll leave it at that. Thank you, Nick. So there's a divide, though. And so the rest of the world, outside of those mentions that I just said, are very much against this. The Muslim world, obviously,
hold on
is
they opened this conflict. The Jew Americans, they opened.
I'm not defending them. I'm not defending them, but I don't think we need to.
Context.
We need to hang Iranians from cranes because they don't like
we're not
government.
We're not hanging anyone. The Iranian government can do that.
Okay.
We can deport them.
Which
not that you're getting any deportations.
Which may very well may should happen. I mean, Patrick Bet David, he's like this Iranian Assyrian guy. He's very much in favor of this. And he's like 81% of Iranians that he knows are in favor of it. He gave that number. So yeah, we have people like that. Our sometimes co-host Hans, he jokingly calls him the Persian rug dealer podcaster. But yeah, why do we have people like this here is a question I do have. But
well, because they're 100% aligned with Zionist policy.
Yeah, he has a Jew on his show, and I always found that bizarre. But
I mean, I also have a hard time believing that he's not a Jew. His name's Patrick Bet David.
I know the name always threw me off, but so and he lives in Florida.
There you go, more evidence.
And he's an insurance salesman.
He's not beating the charges right now. He's not
I know. The list keeps growing.
That's stacked up quick. Damn, I was like, wow, 5 strikes. What are we playing?
Yeah, that guy's awful, man. That guy's awful. The
Yeah,
entire
he's
Iranian diaspora community, they're They're insufferable.
Another anecdote I wanted to share really quick, by the way, also too, saying that people should be deported, extradited, whatever, and then hung for, what could arguably be construed as treason for the regime in any other country that's not really illegal. It's not really a threatening thing to say. I believe hanging is still a legal form of execution in some states, and that it is the crime of treason, even here in the U.S., is punishable up to death. That is still on the books.
Mhm.
So we're not necessarily advocating for any like criminal activity or anything. When that's being said, this is reasonable discourse within the fine confines of the law. It is not unlawful to say that somebody's behavior, even in our U.S. government, they could be potentially guilty of treason, and treason can be punishable of death, and that
Sure.
form of death can be hanging. That's all in the books.
Well, two thoughts occur to me as you mentioned that, Hangy. The apropos,
Thanks.
I know the Epstein deposition or hearings. I don't really watch C-SPAN, so I'm sure it's all some kangaroo court nonsense. But Hillary Clinton, and maybe Bill were also like being questioned about their involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. And you talk about,
which I believe is the first time a former U.S. president has been subpoenaed in that way.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean Nixon. I don't know if he got targeted, but probably not. I mean, he was pardoned, right? So
Well,
that
a
was
former U.S. president. I mean, yeah, I think
Sure.
once he was pardoned. Yeah.
And just the other thought that occurred to me is just this action in and of itself. It's not treason per se, although I would probably argue it kind of is, because it's not in the U.S. interest of our president to be fighting another country's wars for it, namely Israel's wars. But the question of international law is kind of a contentious one. But think about the legality of attacking and murdering a foreign country's leader when you're not even openly at war with them. I mean, Israel is, and I think technically the Israelis did the killing. That's what they claim, at least. But under U.S. law, you're actually even allowed to do this if you deem a target to be a terrorist. But I think the Israelis did it just to kind of like legally get out of this like potential problem of like what the F? Like, okay, you abducted Maduro, you killed the Ayatollah. What can't you do? I mean, can you just kill anybody you don't like? I mean, and you're not even at war. Like, to me, like imagine as anyone would in this country, if possible, if we can actually think of ourselves as a regular country. If it doesn't matter who, if Japan like attacked us and killed our president. I mean, that happened, and started World War II for the U.S. officially. Like unofficially, we were already engaged, but officially, that brought us into World War II. What would you expect the Iranian people to feel when we kill their president and Pope, as I put it on Twitter? I mean, so those two things. It's like the crimes of our leaders under Epstein being kind of like swept under the rug with this whole like news cycle, and then this like crime against humanity. I hate that phrase, but it just like, how else would you put it? It's like, this is nuts. Like, we're killing people in other countries and we're not at war with them.
Luckily it's not we. It's the American government.
No, it is not the American people. And I don't know. I mean, at this point it's like, God, and it's embarrassing. But if anybody outside of this United States thinks that Americans want this to happen, if they're Republicans, apparently they support this garbage, which I actually suspect that number, that apparently 83% of Republicans are in support of what Trump did. I think that's a bullshit number. I don't buy it.
I don't believe that.
But
I don't believe that.
61% of independents are against it, and like 90% of Democrats are against it. So that's the majority of the country. We're not for this. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, the recent Reuters poll, I think it was something to the effect of 28% of the population supported it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but that's more plausible.
Yeah, the 28% of the population is more I think kind of relevant number, because when we're talking about 90% Democrats, 80% Republicans, first thing that pops into my mind at this point in this, current sociopolitical climate is what does that number look like now? And then how many people do we have today that don't fit into either of those figures at this point?
Of course. Yeah, people who didn't answer the poll. I mean, I would say I'm kind of an independent if I had to use one of those three, but I voted Republican more than anything else, and I certainly don't want to be voting Democrat. But like this midterm that's coming up, I mean, dude, this was an unforced error if they care at all, which I don't think they do. I think my read on it is basically support of Israel has been plummeting for the past 4 years. And it's like the support of Palestinians actually just rose above it recently. And I think Netanyahu is basically like, well, I only got so much time left, so I'm gonna go for broke. That's the
calculation. That is the calculation, and it's why it does seem like they don't really have a very good strategy. I mean, that's what most military analysts are saying, because from what I understand, Iran is going to be able to prevail in any long-term conflict. I mean, they defeated the Zionist entity in the 12-day war, and basically they spent all the time in between then and now rearming and preparing for this war. And it's not really clear what they're supposed to do. And in the Epstein government, they're squirming like worms, the worms that they are, when they're asked that simple question of what is the objective here. They can't answer it. I don't know if you saw Marco Rubio's comments the other day. Today. But the idea is that you're going to achieve regime change from doing terror bombings of civilians and assassinating beloved leaders. Does that make sense to anyone?
The regime change thing is like, well, first of all, Trump ran on the literal. I mean, okay, so we were asked to talk to Devin Stack from Black Pilled, and so I sent him a message. So we'll see if anything happens there. No pressure. All respect to him. He's done great work. But I listened to his latest show, and he was talking about this on Saturday, and basically he was playing clips of Trump during, like, this is all happening so fast. Like, he didn't have much time to prepare, but like what he found was basically like 7 instances of Trump basically running and then becoming the new president of the United States in 2016, 17 when he assumed office. And he was basically saying that regime change is off the table. I have utmost respect for the Iranian people, and we don't need to see the regime change. We just need to have an adjustment in their policies, and so just different ways of saying that basically. And now it's basically like, no, we need these guys to go. We want them gone. And so it's just it's a very
Judge
clear.
Napolitano has been doing the same thing. Playing clips of Trump.
This guy's a liar, and he's lied before. And this is just so flagrant. Yeah, it's disgusting.
He is evil. He is an evil criminal, and probably a rapist, a child rapist as well. Probably.
We all hope. Well, I hope not, but it's increasingly like hard to believe that he wouldn't do something like that, given his hanging out with Epstein and all his, like, he owns the fashion shows and all this creepy shit. Where it's like, okay, dude, like, apparently Epstein introduced him to his wife, Melania. Yep. I learned that recently.
Yeah, and going all the way back to 2016. I've been doing this for 15 years, give or take. And, everybody felt like the second coming was occurring and Orange Daddy was going to save us all. And so I started getting asked about it and shot things. And I've been unplugged from contemporary politics almost completely for a very long time, working at a community-based level since then. But the notion... I took a look into it and I was just like, well, let's see what this guy's kind of background and resume looks like. And I saw 2 things that stood out immediately. And it was that all of his children are married to Jewish people, and he's taken money, personal loans from George Soros. And, it's a very well-fed lapdog. Like he's getting big scraps from the table, and they kind of don't dole that out unless you're very well behaved. In my experience of studying these people and their culture.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's kind of what he's operating on. It's like he wants to protect his business empire, and at this point, his foreign policy legacy is looking. I don't know. I mean, the Maduro thing you could argue was like a successful operation. If you want to like think that that's like a good thing to like unseat a foreign government without permission, but this Middle East quagmire stuff, I don't see it working out too well. I mean, we tried that before.
Dude, they're cooked. The Trump, the MAGA, all that shit, it's cooked. It is not going to recover from this.
What do you guys think of that meme circulating around? I believe it was Iran who did this, but they like had a bit of a to-do around burning an effigy of Malak Bal.
Oh yeah,
And
I saw that.
there's some people that are saying this is just a hissy fit in direct response to that, and that kind of jives when there's these weird punches being thrown. It's like a rush job, and they can't give us an answer about what's the win condition and why are we doing this again exactly. Do you think that story is true? This claim of them burning that effigy, and then do you think that's a factor in here at all?
I don't know. They took 3 weeks to build up the U.S. Navy in the Gulf, and that I'm sure took months prior to that to plan all that logistical chain. I don't think this was a snap decision. Maybe it like added a straw to the camel's back, but I don't think that was the primary factor. That's just my instinct, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, the video is real from what I can tell, but no, I would say the same as Adam. I mean, this was a plan. They also taped pictures of Jeffrey Epstein to the Ball statue.
Based
Yeah, I mean, like the Iranians and the Afghan, like the Taliban are vying for my favorite videographers these days for like their meme magic. And like, you remember when the Taliban all got ice cream, and they're like doing the Joe Biden, like they're kind of funny.
Dude,
like, it's like
that seeing those bros broing down with the bros after a long, hard 30-year long grind. And they just had their bumper cars and their ice cream and their AKs, and we're just hanging out with the dudes. I shed a tear. I envy them truly. I envy
You
them.
gotta find a good way to wind down after a long jihad.
I mean, it's like you got it. You're there. You made it. Everybody left. They left a bunch of stuff, and they got their gig back. Like that's, man.
And
that's
people
gotta be so
respect
good.
winners like that. And just like, I mean, this is going to be a massive blow to the credibility of the empire.
I am a winner respecter.
Yeah, I mean, I find
go ahead.
what I find touching is the fight. The people of Gaza being able to watch as Iranian missiles. They're standing in the rubble of their cities after having been brutalized and genocided for 2 years, and I take some comfort in knowing that they get to watch as the missiles rain down and kill Jews.
So how many?
Which, by the way,
that's
is what this is about too. This is about Gaza. I mean, Iran has never abandoned its commitment to the Palestinian struggle.
What do you know, Nick? How many of the missiles landed in Israel? I know Iran launched a bunch of stuff, but was it primarily at Israel, or were most of those intercepted?
It's been at the entity, and it's been at throughout the Gulf
and the U.S. bases and stuff like that.
Yeah, U.S. bases, and a lot particularly in northern Iraq. Because in northern Iraq, appears to be a staging ground for them trying to create some sort of Kurdoid army.
That's where the Kurds are concentrated in northern Iraq and western Iran and southeastern Turkey, from what I remember.
Yeah,
yes, so that makes sense.
And so there's been a lot of hits in northern Iraq in particular. But
Did you
when
also
they do
hear
these
that
waves,
Iraq probably was the staging ground for the ATACMS, which are these like 300 mile range, short range ballistic missiles that have been used in Ukraine and places like that. And so Iraq is effectively part of this like Zionist, like Oded Yanan, like Greater Israel, sort of. That's kind of how I look at it. But did you hear about that? Like Iraq is actually.
I did not hear that.
Well, it's speculated. I mean, so apparently these missiles landed somewhere in Iran, and where else would they have been fired from if not Iraq? I mean, yeah, maybe Turkey, but it's speculated that it's possible that they actually were using Iraq to actually participate in this.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, it's the situation. It's a very ironic situation considering the American war against Iraq ended up as an Iranian victory.
Yeah, right.
Not a total Iranian victory, but
but they definitely
I guess you could say
gained
plurality.
influence. Yeah.
Yes,
And
they
they certainly. I don't know the breakdown Sunni Shia. I mean, that's like God. I feel like I'm in 2004 again, but it's we're doing this.
You could be forgiven for thinking you woke up in 2004. But it is. They have. I mean, Hezbollah, Kateb Hezbollah is in Iraq, and they are in the arena as well.
Yeah. Speaking of the arena, I put out a tweet when this first happened, and I think it was. It's looking less likely that there's going to be an escalation with the other great powers, but it's still possible. But what do you think that the Russian and Chinese are going to do?
I think it's pretty unlikely that there would be a direct intervention. However, the Chinese have given access to their satellite systems and to, I guess, some of their information systems, encryption, military encryption, the Beidou satellite system.
Okay.
So and it seems, I mean, Zog's trying to put on a straight face, but it from everything we can tell, it looks like Iranian intelligence is very good, because they've been some of these attacks these hits that they've made have been in things like hotel rooms in places like Dubai,
right,
CIA stations where they're housing American personnel.
But is that just from their human intelligence network? I'm sure they have operatives in all those places. I don't see how the Chinese would like assist them with that, like satellites for sure, but for like targeting the hotel room.
I can't speak to that. I can only say the observation that I am making is that it appears their intelligence is very good.
Yeah. Did they hit any high profile targets that you would consider good shots basically from their perspective? Or
they've hit several American radar stations.
Oh, those are, but that's the hardware. I'm thinking about like the personnel, like so the hotel room would
personnel
be on a person, right?
They burned a CIA station.
Okay.
We know that. I believe that was in Dubai. The Iranian claims there is a lot of talk right now about potential large casualty event, but no proof has shown up yet. The numbers claimed by Iranians are upwards of like 500 or so enemy targets as far like individuals, casualties, which have not seen good evidence of. But again, the information, the fog of war is pretty thick, and it's hard to tell exactly what's going on. And as I said before too, the footage has been, I saw a video of a Chinese news program, that Chinese state media that was in occupied Palestine, and they were showing some footage of damage, and then they were shut down by the Jews.
That's interesting.
They really don't want this stuff getting out. They're really trying to minimize it, and they like to show the footage that they have of, I guess they hit an Iranian frigate
Yeah.
today. So
I think there was another ship a few days ago that I heard about, at least yesterday. But it's all happening so fast, I can't keep up. But you know that Netanyahu, well, allegedly, he flew to Berlin when this all started, and then his family is in Miami. There's this horrible photo of like his son and wife like sitting on their balcony drinking coffee and just looking like they're on like a vacation. I mean, it's gross. It's just super gross. And like, you know,
if you could shoot that to me, that would be great. I think the notion that Netanyahu's family is on U.S. soil should be getting as much exposure as possible.
Oh yeah, sure.
Again, not to make any like targeted threats.
No,
but
no.
absolutely,
his son got a lot of. There was some attention given to the fact that his son was in Florida during the height of the war in Gaza, when he's military age Jew, and he was.
I mean, we have a constitutional right to address grievances with, our domestic politicians. I think the same applies for foreign ones. And like, absolutely, if there's, you recognize a cafe or a hotel or something like that, go yell at them. Go tell them they're pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Don't let them enjoy their coffee.
Work within the confines of the law. Free speech.
Within the confines of the law, you have you have First Amendment, a protected right to address grievances with politicians. Don't threaten or attack people, but absolutely you have a right to stand on public property, and if they're within earshot, to express your opinions and views. That is constitutionally protected, wholly legal, and we need to make more use of that because, again, no targeted threats, but the notion that they're sitting on their fat Khazarian asses and sucking my country's coffee while they're sending our people to go die for their war profiteering is absurd, and they absolutely should.
I put it in the chat if you want
public address.
If you want to look at
that's
it,
great. I'll grab that later. Yeah.
Well, and speaking of Jews, please go ahead.
Well, you asked a question about China and Russia. Could you reiterate that? Because I'd like to give some feedback.
Oh, I guess that was me. I'm just I'm curious what their involvement's going to be, other than like the sort of non-kinetic assistance and sharing intelligence, setting up trade, bypasses and such to get around blockades. But I don't know how active militarily they will be. I would be surprised if they intervened, because that would really escalate global tensions. I don't know. That was my question though.
Yeah, I did want to throw out my 2 cents on it, and this is, again, let's just go ahead and pull out the salt lick, because now with AI and everything else, the fog of war, propaganda, and how fine-tuned that's become as a weapon of war, unless you're actually seeing it firsthand, we all got to be maintain a little bit of open-mindedness in all of this. And so I don't know what the viewer base is or your guys' views are on Russia versus Ukraine. I've largely stayed out of that because, to me, it just looks like a coordinating culling orchestrated by Zionists on both sides to thin the populations and open up real estate. And to me, any kind of like involvement or who's with who and this, that, and the other, I think that's just what it kind of comes back to.
Yeah.
I've seen things that have led me to personally come to the conclusion that Putin's a Zionist. The same thing with Xi Jinping. And I think that's just what it is they're all going to kind of work together to try and, they destabilize and destroy things to free up assets, material resources, land, real estate, Soros's model. Burn down the city in a riot and then go buy up all the property on the cheap when it's done. And that's the level of involvement.
I think the Chinese, I'll let you finish, but I have a thought on that. So go ahead, please.
I think that that's, don't miss it's important. My mindset, and this is what I share with my personal social circles when, people ask, and that's that we need to be not losing the forest for the trees, and keep in mind that this is, a shout out to Charles Carroll of Perfect Guy Life, Sam and Nick and all that.
Oh yeah,
his
sure.
Wife's in Kuwait right now. His wife's in Kuwait right now.
Yeah.
So he's scared shitless. He did an emergency video the other day.
Wow.
Prayers for them.
Wow.
And he but I believe they said this and it's popped up in a couple other places, but it's like it's kind of governments versus people at this point right now. And so it's pretty much like Zionists versus non-Zionists is what it's shaping out to and shaking down to. And so
Okay.
try not to get like, confused about that is what my answer would be on that.
Yeah.
And again,
Overall, yeah, I
Yeah,
generally
no.
agree. Yeah, with that take. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say I'm open to feedback, alternative info, and cross-examination. Just
Okay.
don't personally attack me because I'm barely invested.
No. We don't believe in that here. We think reasonable people can disagree, as Doomberg would say. But
I mean,
yeah, go
I've heard
ahead.
that from people before. I do disagree. I'm a Russian China shill.
I think
Because they're
particularly China does not trust the Jews at all. I think Putin, there's evidence he's colluded with them, but I think the Chinese view the Jews
Oh, he
as
has. I mean,
as a threat.
Russia went through a process of the Russian relationship to Jewry is complex. There's, that could be a show in of itself. But the way that I look at these conflicts between the great powers is just America is Team Jew. Whether the Chinese state or the Russian state is willing to collaborate with Jews, I'm sure they're willing to, but America is Jewry. America is the Jewish power, and I don't buy into this idea that the conflict between China and Russia and America is some kind of shadow play or some kind of orchestrated thing for the purpose of culling the goyim and achieving some kind of Jewish world government. America is the Jewish world government. That's
Well, it's not
why
just
they're-
okay. The American alliance. It's not just the United States proper. I mean, it's Western Europe. It's Australia. Canada. Sort of.
Sure.
I mean, it's all of that crap,
Sure.
and it's
Yeah.
English speaking
It's
kind of European
One-
peoples.
One question I would ask in response to that, because this is something I'm not clear on because I haven't paid attention to, the Russia's politics very much beyond World War II, the 30s, 40s, and 30s to the 50s, whatever. But if at all, when did the Bolsheviks lose control of Russia and the Russian government?
from the 90s until the present day. They have lost. They made a big push.
You don't think
at the fall of
Stalin?
the-
You don't think Stalin kind of? I mean, when he says Bolshevik, I assume
well,
Jews, but
Stalin was
yeah.
Jewish.
I mean, Stalin. Well, okay. I mean, I could do briefly going back before the 90s. What happened was you had a conflict. It's similar where the two big competing ideas in Jewry was Zionism and Bolshevism. And there was a time in which you could sustain both of these ideas at once, particularly in Palestine in the 20s and 30s, in which you had effectively Bolshevik Zionism being established there. But the realities of the post-war period and the way the world was divided up after the defeat of Germany led to a fundamental conflict and between the Soviet Union and its former ally, the United States. And with this, you started to see tensions over the Zionist project within the Soviet state. I mean, we could do a whole show on this, but Yaki pointed out.
Write
one
that
of the
down.
pivotal-
Write that down.
Yeah, we could. I mean, Yaki pointed out one of the pivotal moments of this was because effectively what ended up happening was Zionism was designated as a treasonous ideology to the USSR. And they hung, 12 Jews in Prague for the crime of Zionism. And that marked a big shift. And there was also the whole thing around the war in the 70s. But that, again, the relationship is complicated because also the Jews had a major base in Russia prior to the Bolshevik Revolution. I mean, they were there. They were a power bloc doing what they do for hundreds of years previously to that.
Yes, certainly.
in the 90s, effectively, they made a big push to reconsolidate power in the chaos that followed from the collapse of the Soviet Union. And Putin had his Jew oligarchs that he was allied with, but by the time of the Ukraine war and some of the events that took place, I mean, one of the last Jew oligarchs that they were that was friendly with the Putin people was the one who was backing the Wagner group. And when they attempted a coup and were assassinated, I mean, that was kind of the end of that. So Russia's kind of gone through a process of somewhat de-Judaization, you could say. I'm not as bullish on that as some people that say like Russia is a fundamentally anti-Jewish power. I definitely wouldn't go that far, but
Yeah.
world events have definitely pushed them into an antagonistic relationship with the America-Israel combine.
Yeah.
Is
This
my
leads
short
me.
story.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
go
great.
ahead.
This is all very insightful. I'm already learning new stuff. I would say, so just to clarifying question, you think that that the Bolsheviks and the Zionists were separate entities with conflicting interests, and not that Zionism was not like a linear rebranding of Bolshevism, or if it was like kind of a true face where Bolshevism was a anachronistic moniker adopted to function within Russia at the time.
Well, it was a dispute over strategy, over what is best for the Jewish race going forward, what will affect Jewish victory. And there was a time in which Bolshevism, people were much more bullish on Bolshevism. And it wasn't, Zionism ended up, I mean, communism's dead as an ideology. I mean, the ideology, that debate was settled. It was settled in favor of Zionism as the path forward for Jews.
Yes.
I mean, and Zionism isn't explicitly, Bolshevism was also an attempt to create a coalition with, and exploiting weaknesses in Goy society in order to create a revolutionary coalition to destroy Goy societies by appealing to the underclass elements and the dissatisfied, etc. And it performed its role. I mean, Bolshevism destroyed the European civilization. It worked.
And you don't, Nick, you don't think that there's, I mean, yes, communist as a sort of state level system. I mean, the Chinese have basically switched to national socialism, in my opinion. But like on the street, it's still effective, as you said. Like get the hearts and minds of the sort of disaffected, outcast, spiteful mutant, whatever you want to call them, and they throw wrenches in every little crevice of a nationalist, Antifa, whatever you want to call them. But like they seem to be a force. Like at this collage of pictures that I was looking through from the AP on the rallies after the events on Saturday, there was a sticker very subtly, but like in the corner of a frame, there was an Antifa sticker, and then there was also a communist flag. And that was in Turkey, if I recall correctly. So I feel like there's still a,
well, and
it's not, I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but I feel like it's still a tactic, if nothing else.
Well, they still deploy it. To bring it back to the present conflict, they still do deploy it a little bit in the case of the Kurds with the Peshmerga. They try to make that appeal to Western would-be, pseudo-Marxist Leninist revolutionaries, but it's effectively dead. I mean, you had, even in the case of the Palestinian resistance, you had a lot of great Palestinian leaders who, the Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine, you still see sort of a remnant of secular, informed by Marxist-Leninist revolutionary tactics. But, Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood idea of that was taken over as the primary force of the resistance. It was viable for a time, and it was also viable for a time in that part of the world, just in the context of anti-colonial struggles. So that was seen as the viable form that a revolutionary struggle would take. But ironically, it was the Jews themselves that tried to promote fundamentalist Islam as being a way to hopefully neutralize revolutionary struggle. And you see where that got them. It got them October 7th, and you got them this war, which is now a religious war.
Well, it's, arguably always been a religious war. There's that school of thought. And, just to circle back on what we were saying there, I just have to express that, if I'm understanding correctly, this creature, these people, this thing that we're talking about, that we're currently referring to as Jews and Zionists, as opposed to, Khazarians, vampires, or whatever else,
Yeah. I saw a thread which I kind of discounted because it was getting a little silly, but like there's people who believe that these people are descended from trolls, and like they've been breeding with Europeans for thousands of years to like hide themselves. But I mean, yeah, it's okay, yes, but whoever they are, they're definitely an alien group, and they don't have our interests in mind. Is how I'd put it. So
yeah. Alien in the contemporary, definition. There's some people that speculate they're alien in like the literal extraterrestrial sense, and the idea that they were like subterranean cave dwellers that started infiltrating society in Romania and stuff is not totally beyond the realm of possibility. There's modern indigenous cultures that still live in caves.
Right.
I don't like talking about it because then I sound like that AM radio guy that uses, no, they're interdimensional reptilians, and it's like.
Yeah.
Although, what was it? The controversy where somebody like swapped their lizard and it came back as 99% Khazarian.
Well, I was just gonna say there are Brooklyn sewer Jews. I mean, they do live in the sewers.
The truth can be stranger than fiction. I'm not going to make any hard claims right this minute, but to the point of like this ousting of Bolshevism to be replaced with Zionism, I'm still hearing that the Russian government is Jewish when we hear that. And okay, 12 guys got hung. Okay, well, a bunch of people there's people that think that October 7th was a false flag, and we're dealing with a populace that delights in torture and murder of people they don't consider on the, part of their inner cloister. And they absolutely have every inclination to liquidate themselves over power struggles. And so like, it's like, well, what is it? People try and say that like Zionism can't be a thing or global Jewry can't be a thing because Netanyahu doesn't like George Soros. And it's like, well, that would be like, to me, that's like saying that National Socialism can't be a thing because, Harold Covington and William Pierce don't like each other,
Well, I mean, Jews argue all the time with each other. I mean, they have fights. I mean, Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated, for example, by a ultra right wing Jew. So it's the difference. I mean, the thing with Jews is that they still manage to maintain a very high degree of racial cohesion and solidarity, particularly when they perceive a threat from outside. It's not like they're all in lockstep with each other.
No.
But the debate is still centered on the question of what is best for the Jews.
Exactly.
There are Jews that do not like this right now because they think it's bad for the Jews.
Yeah, they think it's an overplay. And we can see direct parallels within our own fringe, or whatever we want to refer to ourselves in the context of this radio show, whatever's most comfortable for you guys. But that happens all the time.
I just call myself a nationalist. Nick can describe himself,
yeah.
But yeah.
Right.
I'm a white man.
So,
there you go.
All right, I'm with you. Good to know. But you can see the parallels within our own social gatherings where you get more than 5 guys in a room. Somebody says we need to go harder. Somebody says we need to go softer.
Of course.
Somebody says we need to be like this. Somebody says we need to be like that. And all of a sudden you have 4 different dudes that, will fight. And up into the 90s and early aughts, dudes were like stabbing and killing each other over basically dissidents within the fringe, saying that you are detracting from the productivity of our cause, but the cause remained the same. And to say that like the influence ceased to exist because, somebody got liquidated, I don't find compelling. I think that's a fallacy.
I didn't say the influence ceased, and I would draw a distinction between. I'm not saying that the Soviet Union became anti-Semitic, but it became functionally anti-Zionist. In that Zionism was the occupation entity in Palestine was seen as an extension of American imperial power, which was an existential threat to the Soviet regime.
Yeah,
and
then
it's not just. I'm not trying to suggest that the Soviet government was anti-Jewish. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Sure. Yeah. And I just think that's good standard practices for the strategy they need to have for the nature of their people and their culture. It's like we see it in the Balkans and we see it in the US. In the US, the lines can be drawn straight up ethnically, but in, the Balkan conflict, they had to draw them religiously and antagonize along those religious lines because everybody was white. It just so happened that a bunch of people were Orthodox, and then
right,
a bunch of them were Muslim, and so they had to drive that wedge theologically. And
I can speak to that point. I will add also that distinction between anti-Jewish and anti-Zionist has become less real, and that's because the Jewish race has consolidated now behind the Zionist project. That wasn't true on the same level in the 70s, immediate aftermath of the Second World War. It wasn't true until recent years, really, is when that has become, because there is no other state besides America and through extension the so-called Israel that represents the Jewish race. Sure, they have their hedges throughout the rest of the world, of course. They're always trying to be flexible and, have backup plans. But to your point about sowing division over ideas and stuff and how we can compare ourselves to the Jews in this way, is that they have tried to promote that kind of sectarianism. I mean, what happens with not just whites, what happens with the Goyim generally is these other ideas that what makes the Jew effective as a competitor, and why it is that they have achieved the power that they have, is because Jews don't have competing identity conceptions. Their race, their religion, their nation, all of these things are the same thing. And yes, there were these minor fissures throughout here and there, but they have developed over centuries and thousands of years an ability to effectively prioritize racial teamwork and solidarity. And that also means, in the case of their race, allowing for, Jeffrey Epstein's and things like that, even among their own people, even, predation, and they're sick people, but it's effective. And what happens to the Goyim generally is these other ideas of nation or religion or ideology become the most salient of their self-conceptions, of their identity conceptions. And that's why the Jew promotes that kind of stuff. They promote sectarianism both in the formerly white world as well as in the Arab Muslim world. And that's what we're seeing now, though, with the assassination of Ali Khamenei and with Gaza generally. I mean, keep in mind, Hamas is a Sunni organization there, and they made their missteps for the same reasons. For example, supporting the al-Nusra forces in Syria out of sort of a latent sectarian sentiment. But we're seeing now, with this war being waged against all Muslims, we're seeing a solidarity come about. And sure, the Gulf states themselves are run by traitors, but the people more and more are seeing themselves as part of one struggle, Sunni or Shia, regardless. It is one struggle, and the enemy is the same. The enemy is the Jew. Yeah. And I think whites should learn from that.
Well, I was about to say the formerly...
We are, I would say, by the way. It's things I think are better than they ever have been at this point.
In terms of showing people...
in the US history.
Yes, the awareness. I mean, we did this show with Gerimar Rudolph last episode, and I discovered as I was talking to him and pointed out that the interest in the Holocaust has declined by roughly 75%. in the past 20 years. And I think that's sort of a nail in the coffin of these ruling elites that we've been plagued with for probably 100 years or so. And
Generation Alpha does not care. It's so funny. They don't care. It's so funny.
yeah, I mean, I think the internet has played a huge role in that, and Iraq and now Iran, I mean, I think are also adding more nails to that coffin, and I think the time may be running out. We can only hope, but I was going to ask, on the sort of elite levels of these governments that are pretty much all occupied, as far as I could tell, throughout the West. For example, the British, who were not initially involved on the surface of this campaign on Saturday, allowed the U.S. to start using their air bases in the region because of an alleged attack on their base in Cyprus. And so Keir Starmer gets up there and he's like, well, it's with reluctance, because my first duty is to the protection of the British people. I must allow our allies to engage in this rogue attack and whatever the hell else he said. But so you start seeing the dominoes. Apparently Italy said no. We'll see if that continues to allowing participation in this. But
no me frego, or is it me ne frego? What is it? We don't care.
me no frego.
Yeah, it means I don't have I don't have a question or something. I don't know what that means, but
I think it says I don't care. I think it means I don't care.
Got it.
Care.
Got it.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's true.
It was Spain though that said
Spain recently. Yes, that's a good example. Yeah, they're kind of like nope, and then Trump does this cringe like, oh, well, you say no to me, like you don't matter. It's just the very petulant, typical.
Well, he started threatening them. Both Spain and Italy provided support for the Gaza flotilla, which obviously it's mostly just symbolic because they didn't open fire on the Jew Navy, which they should have, but obviously they weren't going to do that.
Sure.
But they provided support. I can't speak to the European domestic political situation, but what I can say is that when it comes to the English stuff, I think there was a lot of propaganda for show about that.
To distinguish the English from the European, of course.
That wasn't really. Wasn't necessarily my intention.
I'm glad we're being clear.
But you started by talking about that, so it's whatever that. What's that big base they have in the Indian Ocean?
Oh,
it's not really
Diego Garcia. Well, that's U.S., but
Diego Garcia.
Okay.
No, I'm pretty sure the English. I think that's the UK. I think owns it still.
Well, the U.S. definitely has U.S. Air Force definitely is stationed there. But go ahead.
The UK has nominal ability to refuse U.S. access.
Gotcha.
And they were pretending, whether that's real, but on paper they would have the ability to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And they, prior to this war starting, they were saying that they might do that. And people were kind of surprised because, going back to Iraq and everything, they've always been willing goy slaves to whatever the America entity wanted to do.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think
I remember
the
Blair administration, joining that ridiculous mess. And I mean, it's I cynically suspect that as well, especially given Keir Starmer's track record of betraying his own people and involving his people.
Well, he's also a member of the Epstein class.
So if you want, explain. I know you're sort of like basically accusing all these people of being scumbags.
No,
what does that mean exactly? That he went to the island, or he's just part of that like club? Like, what do you mean?
Well, it's been a pretty big deal in the UK. I haven't followed it too closely.
Did they arrest Prince Andrew? Like, did that happen?
Yes.
Isn't that wild?
This is coming back to Starmer in the form of the Jew Peter Mandelson, who has also, I think, been indicted by now for having various relationships with Epstein.
Mm-hmm.
So Starmer's under a lot of pressure domestically.
Do you think this is wagging the dog? I think kind of like what Trump may be doing a little bit. Do you think they're doing that over there with this? Like,
No, I think it's pretty. I think that there's some genuine blowback taking place, and that I don't know if it's just rival. I don't know, but it's normally people like this don't have any consequences. So
Is
it's
it-
interesting that there are.
Well,
Is it performative?
go ahead.
Is it performative liquidation of low value assets because to kind of placate the uprisings in the UK? Because, I make fun, I'm teasing a little bit, but I thought things were getting pretty spicy over in the UK on par with Ireland, where, what do we know what the activism is looking like around there in the past couple of years? I thought the UK was actually getting pretty rowdy and pushing police around pretty recently because of this stuff. And then, Prince Andrew, but who actually cares about him and what use is he? Other than, well, if we put him on a stake for all these angry people, how much value is that going to have for making them feel like something productive happened?
Could be, yeah. I mean, it's the main comparison that people have been making, though, is the fact that they're doing this in England and in Europe. You're getting some other. There is fallout from this, whereas in the United States, no federal police have shown up to Lex Wesner's mansions and dragged that Jew out.
Well, I noticed in the British politic world, the Tommy Robinson retweets have been increasing with him focusing on this. Apparently, there was a stabbing in Scotland by some. I don't know. He looks like he's from North Africa. I have no idea where this guy is from, but he's not white. It's the counter jihad, as you put it, Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and to Tommy Robinson, that was a Muslim. That could be an African Christian, but it's going to be a Muslim to Tommy Robinson.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right.
So there's that kind of propaganda front of roping in Whitey on sympathy with the Jewish plight. I
don't think
remember
it's
this from
going very
9/11,
well,
but no, I don't think so either. I don't see it. I don't feel it.
I mean, the whole world hates Jews and wants to see them get blown up by Iranian missiles.
A lot of the world, I would say, there's a lot of people who still
The
need
majority
to
of the world
learn
wants to see
a
Jews
lesson.
die.
But
Well, it's back to that distinction kind of touched on earlier, where it's like the government versus the people, global government versus global just humans that want to live their life cycles and retain their cultural identity. And then there's the global Zionist uniparty of, slaving plutocrats that are, feeling a little bit of insecurity around their adrenochrome party. Just kind of put yourselves into those shoes of oh man, we got a little loose and people are finding things out and talking about it. We got to make moves here so we don't, make this collective uprising a slam dunk. But I think that is a very solid line to draw, is between government at this point and the people, because I mean the grassroots stuff, it's actually grassroots, and there's a lot of popular so-called rising stars in the political fringe that I'm still very suspect of, and I'm not going to get into names because people get pissy.
sure.
And they never remember 5 years later when somebody gets found out being fake.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah,
the vindication
sure.
is not worth it. But it's like tribalism. It's not, we're not saving the GOP. We're finally being forced to create alternatives at a very ground level that is more authentic to what real governance is, as opposed to this, like I said, these Zionist baby raping and eating pedophiles who are, the music stopping, the sun's coming up, and they're realizing that the cops are at the front door. Kind of, not literally cops, but the neighbors are pissed. Hey, you were being really rowdy last night.
Yeah, I'm not sure why anyone would have ever wanted to save the Jeffrey Epstein party, the GOP. But you're right. There are people who talk like that. And I will say though, like, it's over. If that was your goal, like, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have no love for the.
And I'm happy.
GOP.
By the way, I'm happy. I'm happy.
You even heard me saying like Orange Daddy at the get together and stuff, and I'm sure you might have seen a couple of stink guys shoot my way. Like, sorry, but he's a Zionist. Why are you here and trying to plug that dude?
I think I just
You gotta-
gotta have
you gotta
a little
wake
patience.
up and smell the matzah.
Yeah, but
dude.
a lot of those guys are young. I mean, they're still kind of learning. I think that's part of the process. You touch the fire one too many times, and you remember not to put your hand in the middle of the campfire. But
Too young to remember the Iraq War, I guess.
Yeah,
some people were getting like out of diapers then. I mean, we're getting older ourselves, but
I know.
I don't
Bunch
disagree.
of guys at the get together that don't remember what the country was like before the Patriot Act. That's very scary.
Sure.
That's
Well, that's how you do it. I mean, that's like from the enemy's point of view. It's a boil the frog, change your expectations slowly but surely to the point where you've accepted your subservience. I mean, we're already at that point. As you file your taxes this season, it's like, what are we doing? Like, but your alternative is to go to prison. So that's very clear.
no such thing as debtor's prison. Technically, no such thing as debtor's prison, and the taxation's technically legally fraudulent. And so there's a lot of people pushing for tax strike right now. There's a lot of numbers on that social media.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. That's fun.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
fun.
hey, well, even Blumpf was toting that line. However, duplicitously, he was saying that they were going to get rid of income tax, which would be a political win for them. I mean, they may very well try to still do that. But anyway, I had just if it's even worth talking about, but I just feel like this show is kind of big politics discussion level, but on the ground, I agree with you. Practically speaking, we don't have much hope with the political system, but I still think understanding what they're going to be doing and the directions they're heading in is relevant to how it affects us. If nothing else, if we can't control it, we need to know how to get out of the way or et cetera. So I'm curious, both of you, but Nick, I know you're familiar with Jeffrey Sachs, and he was actually on one of your shows, Judge Napolitano's show, and he was doing as I anticipated. Basically, he was effectively kind of doing I don't know if you want to call it like the Glenn Greenwald script, but he's distancing the reasonable Jews like him from Israel.
Jewish credibility management.
Right. So you want to speak on that? I can pull up the tweet. And
Yeah,
read it,
sure. Yeah, no, I don't have a lot of patience for actually listening to him talk for that reason.
Here's
So
what
I
he
don't.
said. So here's the
Yeah.
tweet from Steve Hanke, who's an economist, who's it doesn't matter. But so distinguished Columbia professor Jeff Sachs on the U.S. strikes on Iran. Quote, "The U.S. Congress is already owned and operated by the Zionist lobby. That's not an exaggeration. That's just a literal fact." Jeffrey Sachs.
Yeah. People are. I mean, that's what people want to hear. I don't know if you've seen what Anna Kasparian's been saying recently, and the Young Turks generally. Even
I'm curious. Not in the past few days, but what's her take?
Oh, they've just come around to that position that yes, the American government is run by Jews.
So I don't
so
know.
is
Is
Tucker
she
Carlson,
still
for that
part?
matter.
Yeah, Tucker's another one that we can talk about. From the Young Turks, though, I thought she left. I didn't know that. Is she working?
No,
with,
she's on the Young Turks still.
So Cenk, that fat guy, and her are still. So when she did the bimbo bleach job, I thought she was like a Republican or something. So is she an independent?
Oh, she's
or
not
what,
a Republican.
What is she?
No,
is
but
she, like she's-
well, I guess you could say that she is hostile to the institutional Democratic Party now, including the Democrats that wanted to posture as being friendly to the Palestinian cause, like AOC and the Squad, that stuff. She's denounced all of them.
Okay, and is the rest of that crew, the TYT people, the old Turks?
Oh, I don't know anything about the.
We just call them the
other,
old Turks now because it's been what,
people that
15
they have
years.
associated. Well, that was
I know it's a
that's the whole
reference
thing.
to the Turkish political history,
Which is
but
ironic because Anna is an Armenian.
oh yeah,
That'll
somebody
that'll never not be funny.
called her out on that. She just like, yeah. But that's why I thought
Well, no,
she
they're all-
left. I don't watch
they're all
that stuff, but okay, that's interesting.
They're Glendale race.
Right, Los Angeles. or
What does that
something.
mean?
It's like L.A., like rich.
Oh,
We're
yeah,
all
yeah, like-
Armenians, Turks. That's also where actually I think there's a lot of Iranians there too.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, ton of Iranians in LA.
So
So
yeah, I mean Glendale's, but you know.
yeah, so what
My point. Okay, so we're talking about you asked about Jeffrey Sachs and the general pivot from people who are a little bit more on the fringes of the system media complex. Tucker Carlson. I mean, I was going to mention earlier that if you saw
he went out. Even Alex Jones was criticizing Trump, and so Tucker was. So
Well, Alex
go-
Jones
run
is
with that.
Alex Jones. I haven't seen what he said recently, but he's definitely worried about.
Oh, he
his
said
own-
this is a war for Israel. That's what he said. He was talking
Yeah,
to Nick
because, well,
Fuentes.
It's credibility destroying at this point.
That's what
And
I thought it
Alex
was
Jones
too.
wants
It's
to
like, how could
continue
you
to have it
possibly
through
see it
the
any
media.
other way, Jones? Like, are you serious? Do you want listeners anymore? Like, so that's how I read it. But
Yeah, of course.
specifically,
I mean, Alex Jones
it's
is
not the
effectively Jew,
Jews, it's Israel, it's Zionism.
Yeah.
It's not the Jews, because of course there's reasonable, clever Jews who are wonderful contributions to our society, like Jeffrey Sachs. I think that's the message, right?
Yeah, and all of those people. I mean, some are getting a little closer to just identifying it for what it is, but I wouldn't expect to see like Tucker Carlson do that. Though his interview with Mike Huckabee, that was, I mean, he
So-
caused like a massive diplomatic incident.
So Huckabee I thought he was a Zionist, like a Christian Zionist. So what did he say exactly, or am I
He's the
misreading?
ambassador. So Mike Huckabee was appointed by the Epstein government to be the ambassador to the Zionist entity in Palestine. And he gave an interview with Tucker Carlson at the Jewish airport. Tucker didn't leave the Jewish airport, which is good for him.
This is
So that's
Ben
what-
Gurion in Israel. What do you mean
Yeah,
the Jewish
one of the
airport?
ones-
You can't be too
Yeah.
coded in this. I actually don't. I want to know what you're talking about. So in
the
Israel,
Jewish
okay,
airport.
good.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Jewish airport.
Got it.
And he gave an interview in which Mike Huckabee said all of the quiet parts out loud, including responding to the question when Tucker asked him if he thought that the Jewish books, that the rightful land of Greater Israel, if they should be entitled to all that land, which is, including all of these countries that exist now, right? And Huckabee said, yes, they should take it all, is what he said,
Oh my God.
which is an amazing statement from a U.S. ambassador. But he's, in some kind of like fugue state at this point because all of his life's ambitions are coming true. And, perhaps, Jeffrey Epstein will rise from the dead and award him like a American lapel pin with
Wow.
the Jesus and the American flag.
Okay.
mean,
Look, I don't want to make this a religious discussion, but we can if you want. I think guys like that, they give Christians a horrible name, and this is why I know both of you are not churchgoers, and I understand why. I get it. I have that similar frustration, so I just want to be clear about this. I don't endorse this moron at all, and there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that are like this.
Yeah, I mean, he's a particularly bad case of it, but I mean that I'll give credit to Tucker Carlson for doing that interview. It definitely hurt the administration, which is good. Anything that hurts the administration is good. But yeah, you're seeing kind of a movement from people who are sort of on the the right wing coded versus the left wing coded commentators. And then you see Jews getting in the, like Jeffrey Sachs getting in the middle of it also to make it clear that they are reasonable and don't endorse this. And I think it's sad that people like the Judge can't see through that, but
Yeah.
this is what happens when you're not a, trained and disciplined anti-Semite.
Oh, no.
Well, let me, if you want, it's a little bit longer, but I have just a tweet that, it's like 300 characters or something. Well, a little bit longer, but it's from the Jewish Voice. It's an expansion of kind of the Jeffrey Sachs sentiment. I'll just read it here, real quick. Jewish Voice Live on X. The United States of America is under occupation by perverted, irreligious Israeli lobbies. We need to save the United States from the Zionism and Israeli lobbies. The scourge of Zionism has begun to spread into our regions. It is not time for us to remain silent, for they are not silent. They are as loud as the ocean. Unfortunately, the perverse, filthy Zionist capital is deceiving the American public with false information. They are striving to take over everything and spread their own perverse propaganda. Zionists have inflicted great and irreversible damage on Judaism, and Jews in particular. Unfortunately, people no longer bother to distinguish between Zionists and Jews because Israel and Zionism use Judaism, and everyone thinks that all Jews are Zionists. Anti-Semitism has increased in the world because of the Zionists, and Jews are no longer safe because of Israel's genocides.
Yes, that's right. So when Israel, as they call it, commits a genocide, the people hardest hit by that are Jews.
Yeah.
That's what they've always been there to do, the Jewish Voices for Peace. It's always that is what they are. They are doing Zionism when they do that. They're doing performative anti-Zionism in the service of Zionism.
Yes.
Zionism is the Jewish race's strategy for domination. And if they're not going to denounce their race, then yes, they are effective Zionists. But they are, you do have these Jews out there that are worried about the consequences that this will have on them. And particularly
wisely. Yeah, I would say. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, you get it a lot with. Yeah, go ahead. I'll let our guest.
I was going to say, if I could, offer my feedback on this one too. There's a very old saying, and it's with Jews you lose. So there was a lot of lessons learned in the Second World War. They were lax on policy. They had a lot of certain people working in with their government. Regardless of how you feel about it, I'm not promoting any certain extremists, whatever. But it got them a lot of problems. Staffing the people that they were deporting. This thing we're seeing here of the information with Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, et cetera, I've heard a lot of good things about Tucker Carlson, and there's something interesting about his behavior in the last couple of years that I'd like to highlight that I think speaks to his sincerity, and I can circle back to that in a minute because it's a whole other topic. But what we're seeing a lot of with this information, it's like, well, why are these guys talking about it if they're not on our team, if they're not our guys? And it's like, you got to understand, like, this is stuff that's been being talked about since the 1920s, since the 19-teens, like since the communist revolution in Germany. And even before that, like through world history, recorded world history, pretty much. There's like some of the most ancient inscriptions in like Egypt are, hey, watch out for these guys.
Oh, I found a quote from Tacitus talking about the Jews. He said, the customs of the Jews are base and abominable and owe their persistence to their depravity. Jews are extremely loyal to one another, always ready to show compassion, but towards every other people they feel only hate and enmity. As a race, the Jews are not a race because they have mingled with other races to the point that they are only a people, not a race. I don't know who wrote that. That's in parentheses. They are prone to lust among themselves. Nothing is unlawful. That's from Tacitus from the Roman Empire. And so
we were.
They're the race
that's a valid point. I believe it says, like, really, it's not an exaggeration. And I believe it's expressly written in their book of like it literally is. If a Jew does it, it's legal. Don't crossfire at each other, you know. And then so when bearing that in mind and looking at these guys, these pundits, these, Talmud Vision sponsored and approved guys that are out saying this stuff, you got to understand, like even Alex Jones, it's like I have a buddy who's really into the like contemporary politics, and he's like, see, he's one of our guys because he's talking about this. And I was like, yeah, I told you about that 15 years ago. It's taken him 15 years to finally mention it on his TV show. Do you want me to show you an older episode where somebody like tried to bring something up adjacent to that topic and he shut them down?
Oh yeah.
Do you want me to send that to you, or are you just not going to watch it and get mad? It's red herrings. It's misdirection. It's this divide and conquer. Well, not divide and conquer, but like divide and deny kind of tactic where it's like, whoa, hey, I know we're all getting our pitchforks and our torches and we're getting ready to actually do something, but hey, let's really quick, everybody stop. And let's all learn about the difference between Zionists and Jews. Go ahead, pull out your pen and paper. I'll explain it all to you right now. No, we're not going to go yet. Hold on, just listen. Let's sit and talk more. Let's not do anything. Let's sit and talk more. And it's just, it doesn't take much to diffuse action in that way. And that's one of the tactics that's commonly employed. Like when we talk about federal infiltration in independent, community-based groups, one of the tactics is to stop any idea or project from progressing linearly and constantly move laterally. So you can't ever be called out as being oppositional, but you keep everybody stuck in like an ADHD loop, because when everybody's planning to do a bake sale and we start like pricing out cupcakes and figuring out how many aprons we need, somebody says, an agent will say, yeah, but what if we sold beef jerky instead? Nobody can say that selling beef jerky is a bad idea, but then now we're not selling cupcakes. Now we got to sit and start over and talk about what it takes to sell beef jerky. And then they just rinse and repeat that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
So
want
red
the goyim
herrings,
spinning
low
on hamster
hangouts,
wheels.
exactly, plausible deniability. And like that's how you can rationalize or explain a lot of this stuff. And I cannot impress enough my personal sentiment, we'll just leave it to that because I hate to fucking tell people anything I'm saying is gospel unless it is. But you have to stop looking to the sky and the fucking TV and your phone for a hero to come and save you. Pardon my language. You need to look to your friends and compatriots. One of the most degrading and painful things I've gone through doing this for 15 years is watching friends of mine that I've known through that time send me videos from Nick Fuentes where he's saying things that I was saying 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And people were telling me I was an idiot or an asshole or just refusing to help me. And now, because some twink in a blazer is saying it's a good idea on a screen, now it's compelling? Give me a break.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I can sympathize with that. It is very demoralizing when people who should know better start consuming bad information and propaganda, and
or they just refuse to see leadership and good ideas in their own people. It's this weird thing of just like, you're my buddy, you're just a dickhead piece of shit. You're not on the TV.
Right.
I only listen to people on the TV. You're not on the TV. You would be on the TV if you were actually smart. Like, come on.
I'm gonna agree with everything you both said. I sympathize as well. I will say, and it's nothing. It's easier said than done. Okay, because I get frustrated myself. But I will say that we have to be patient with some people because they either don't have the time or just the capability to see through propaganda as perhaps they should.
Yes.
And as
We're
leaders and as comrades, we have to help. We can't just discard immediately. Sometimes you have to do that. Okay. Sometimes there's a bad apple, but a lot of people just need a little help. And that's kind of what I think we need to do.
The best you can do is to put out good information or information, just take the right position. And the problem with a lot of with those kinds of mistakes is that some people really just like being lied to. They enjoy it.
Oh,
And
it's
in the case, I
comforting.
mean, someone like Alex Jones is a very entertaining guy.
Mhm.
And if you believe Alex Jones is a liar, which he is, and a Jewish agent, which he is, then you can't enjoy Alex Jones content anymore. And people who want to just enjoy content, you know, they're going to run up against this, and
Yeah.
that's just how it is, man. I mean, like, part of the political space is entertainment. I mean, that's what a lot of people want.
This guy's pretty far out there, but his name is David Lane, and he wrote about. He did like a
David
Wasn't he
Lane
the
is an
14,
American hero.
14 words? I mean, that's
David
that
Lane
David
was
Lane.
American hero. He was, yes, yes, sir. You know, I still don't know the full bars. You know, I'm trying. You know, you get what I'm doing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's all good, man.
But
Yes, David Lane is a hero.
David Lane was and is a hero. Yes, you know, hail David Lane, rest in peace, brother. He said it had substantial amount of discourse on neurological behavior and psychological patterns, and he had what he called his last opiate, which was denial. And so, for many people, if they acknowledge that Alex Jones is full of shit and he's just running, you know, misdirection, he's a pressure release valve or whatever else, then they have to acknowledge that the Patriots are not in control and there is no plan to trust and nobody's coming to save them. And that's a very yucky notion for a lot of people, because we got DoorDash, we got Pornhub, we've got, you know, our 2 minutes of hate in our social media echo chambers. That's all very comfy. And the idea that the lights might go out, you might not have a hot bath for a couple of months, and you're not getting pizza delivered, you're going to get hungry, and you're going to have to take care of some really hairy stuff, is not cool for people. They don't like that scenario. They want the Coca-Cola nationalism that was promised to them by Orange Daddy during his first run, where it's like, well, hey, no, we can do this. We can bring it around, and you can have your McDonald's and be owned by Jews still too. Anyway, but yeah, well, no, it'll totally be a white country again. I promise.
Well, to that point, I mean, one of the things that touch a little bit on what we had originally intended to discuss, but that psychological phenomenon of David Lane and Robert Matthews really caused a lot of problems
Bob Matthews.
Which I'd
Also
like to
a
actually
hero.
do a show on with Hangy in focus, but let's touch upon it.
Yeah,
Quick
okay.
plug,
Let me
quick
just
plug. That's the next one coming up. Yeah. When I come back. Yeah.
to make my point though is that it caused a lot of dissonance for that reason, because it makes people look like bitch-made faggots. People who have a whole thing, they have their little carve out in the American white racialist space. They were made to look like pussies. You know, not everyone, but a lot of people were. And they didn't like that. It's humiliating because it disturbs the illusion that there's some great leader when really they're not capable of doing shit. And to bring it back to the current conflict and what you're seeing with a lot of people, I started seeing this after October 7th. And that was, you saw a lot of so-called white nationalists take effectively a pro-Zionist position, because they would want to say things like, oh, I don't care about those Arabs. Like, I hate them too. I hope the Jews and the Arabs kill each other. And that was coming from a place of deep psychological impotence, because the reality is they make a big thing out of themselves as being some big, some racist. And now you have these brown people who have the will and the determination to bring the entire pig American fucking empire to its knees.
Yes.
They're heroic fighters, and they make these so-called nationalists look like a bunch of fucking pussies.
Yeah.
A bunch of posers. You know, I mean, when Bob and David did this, like those are white men doing it, but it's actually even more humiliating when the brown Muslims that these people claim to hate are doing it.
Yeah. It's what is it? It was like, I really pissed some people off, and I'll go on record and say it again, because I just can't help but piss people off like this. But seeing the videos coming out of Antifa breaking into manufacturing facilities, building weapons and resources for Israel, and like thrashing the place. I actually came to several spheres and said on record a couple of times, I'm like, do I need to go join Antifa? Because you guys are just sitting around
Right.
squabbling about, I don't know, Stacy didn't bring beer, and Chad banged so-and-so's girlfriend. You're just all like white trash circle jerk. Do I need to go join Antifa to get this done? Because I'm about ready to drop an application, because I'm in this to put an end of the evil that's plaguing the world. And I've heard you all pay lip service to that, but things are getting done that I'm told can't be done by people that we say that we're better than. So what's fucking happening?
Well, I can give
100%.
my thoughts on that. I'll give a slightly less than 100% on that. But I'm speaking for myself, not anyone else here. But I would say
I would never, by the way, for the record, I fucking would never. That shit's odious. But you get my sentiment, right?
Yeah, the sentiment I'm 100%. But
I get your sentiment. Okay, you go ahead first, Adam.
this is tricky. People are discussing this actually right now, because the Antifa sticker that I mentioned, it was a London protest where there was this is the problem part of it. Okay, who's Antifa? The guy in that photo, he's probably an office worker somewhere. He probably is like on the anti-racism team of the BBC or God knows what, but very nebbish, low T, kind of the type, little brown. This is the type that joins Antifa. And yeah, you've got the psychos in Portland that, are all white that hate their own race or something. But Antifa was set up, in opposition in Europe to fight against, fascism, right? And they have factions throughout the world. And they're not really our allies. And here's what it is. They see Zionists as basically like white imperialists or fascists. And that's incorrect, at least from a white person's, worldview. But from a Jewish point of view, they are kind of, hyper, nationalist, Jabotinsky, whatever you want to call it, fascists. But it's done in such an internationalist way that it's its own thing. And I'm just saying, they're not our allies. We may share enemies at the moment, but that's how I kind of look at it.
Yeah.
That's why I hesitate.
Okay, can I?
Yeah.
Let me clarify then some things here. First of all, I am not a fascist. Point one, but you said that they perceive the Jewish Zionist project to be white colonialist, right?
I think some of them do. Yeah, I mean,
okay,
I don't know.
We have to be clear.
Definitely.
We have to be clear about who we're talking about in this case, because what Antifa is a Jewish paramilitary organization. Okay.
Yes.
Do Jews view their own racial project in Zionism as a white colonial project? No, they don't. Dumb goyim think that. And this was a kind of thing that was put out by people like Noam Chomsky and the institutional left that had its Jewish management the same way that the institutional right did. And Noam Chomsky, by the way, a member of the Epstein class and Epstein race, these were the narratives that were put out of white settler colonialism as the Zionist project to be able to deflect criticism on to Whitey. And those were narratives that were put out there. But when you talk about Antifa, calling them Antifa, like, did they call themselves Antifa? When protesters were breaking in to arms manufacturers and trying to monkey wrench the war machine, were they acting as Antifa? Did they call themselves Antifa? Or is that right-wing propaganda bullshit?
That is a fair question. That is a fair and interesting question. I would have to go back and double check. I thought that it was being, claimed. Like when, the Al-Qaeda chopped somebody's head off and they're like, yeah, no, we did that. I believe that this was something that they claimed responsibility for. I have to go back and check at this point because this is a great question.
No, it's a good question. I'm going to go even further and say, is this actually orchestrated and a false flag? I mean, like, are we really seriously thinking that Antifa poses a threat to Raytheon or Lockheed? I mean, they have security, around these facilities. Like,
No,
they-
but
they're
there are
not-
people who are mad enough to do that. I mean, and it is-
for some sort of emotional catharsis. But I don't think it's going to stop the production line of the F-35. It's not going to.
It's not about the production of F-35s. It's about sending a message. No, and I will
And a
say
good
this.
target
yeah,
for
you're
that
right.
would have been Caterpillar in particular,
Yeah,
because they
yeah.
probably don't have the same kind of security as defense,
Exactly,
as nominal
exactly.
defense contractors. If you wanted to do a peaceful protest, maybe look at some of these people who make this hardware that are used to demolish homes in
Yes.
Palestine.
Right, and so that was the point I was going to bring up. Also, is that I had a trade job last year where I was going out and providing services that everybody needs, and so I was going to all sorts of interesting places. And because of the nature of what I was doing, we were in places with like larger like in-house server and like data setups and things like that. And so I actually went to a place that was like a 6-man team in the middle of just a quiet little Pacific Northwest neighborhood. No real security. There's like key card doors, but they're fucking glass. It's large pane glass on the front, and they were making drone technology and drone parts, and it was militarized stuff, kind of like they were researching and developing that. And so that's not something that that location specifically was not something that would be too formidable for a wild hair vandal to go and seriously impede. Again, not advocating for that, but
to be clear, we're not recommending people go do this. But yeah, go ahead.
don't break the law. There's civil ways to do stuff. Like instead of sabotaging and vandalizing the equipment and the data centers and stuff, I mean, like, I'd like to go out and protest the place, and again, exercise my constitutional rights,
Sure.
and impede something that's
That's legal.
like meaningfully aiding the murder of innocent people, legal and moral.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, so Adam, did I respond to your? Did I answer your question?
I
think
forgot
you
I forgot what it
question.
was at this point, but I mean, what specifically were you addressing?
Well, yeah, we're talking about the Antifa thing. I mean, I think it's
yeah. I mean, I
bring it back
I think they're
like,
they're a
that narrative is
paramilitary
dying.
proxy army.
Okay. Well, the Chomskyite type narrative, I think that's coming to an end, as we are talking about with these and a point I also wanted to make to what our guest was saying here is, like it or not, though, influencers do matter. Like,
Of course.
And so I always do pay some attention to what someone like Tucker Carlson is doing, or the Young Turks, or the people who will go on the Judge Napolitano show.
I kind of have been annoyed with him a lot lately, but have you seen what Nick Fuentes' position is?
He's
on
somebody
this?
I don't follow too much.
Yeah, I really prefer to not talk about that dude. He's such a turd. Like, it pisses me off so bad.
Don't
I just
disagree,
can't-
but on
well-
the topic of understanding nodes
actually,
of influence,
I do know the answer to
I don't
that
think he's
question,
irrelevant.
though. He appeared on Alex Jones's show just now.
Right.
Yeah,
where
so
Jones called out Israel as,
I didn't
as the
watch it.
perpetrator of the war. I didn't either. I just saw the clip, but
Okay. Yeah, well, people are being forced to pivot.
he's
a
been
little
on that
closer
show
to reality.
before. He's got like relationships. I mean, he's been on Tucker. He's hung out with Sam Hyde, which is, but so we don't
Sam
have to
Hyde's
talk
a
about
hard
him.
one to put the finger on, but yeah.
I looked at his at Wigger account, which is okay, but he basically called out the war as being unjust, which is not surprising, but he didn't really do
Sure, but like
too much.
I gotta say this, and I'll say it on record, and I know it's bumping around out there some still. And this was back before I think deep fakes were a thing still. I've seen this weird GIF of Sam Hyde making out with a guy as part of like some sketch, like hard, not like when the dudes on SNL like rub their faces together. Like, no, They were putting their tongues in each other's mouths.
But was he
the guy was dressed
portraying
as-
a gay guy? He's done that on a few skits. I mean, I don't know. I don't endorse this, but yeah.
Yeah, it could be that he was more open to that earlier in his career, and he decided he didn't want to. He wanted to draw that line a little harder. I could see that. Like sometime,
Yeah.
when I was younger, I was like, yeah, putting on a woman's dress is funny.
Yeah.
I used to get that, but it's just weird. Hasn't been fully accounted for. And then he gets that those duping delight mannerisms periodically, and he has said on the show.
What does that mean? I'm not familiar.
So, duping delight is an interesting phenomena of nonverbal communication. This is in like CIA training and other stuff, and like observing nonverbal cues and behaviors that indicate whether people are lying and things like that. And what it is like, I'll give you a good example. There's another dude that was active in the region who, in a personal conversation, I have no problem speaking to this guy. I won't name drop him. Hopefully he's on a redemption arc. You know who you are, you dirty bastard. But he made a comment one time. We were all hanging out. And he's like, oh yeah, those O9A guys are so terrible. And he smiles and looks around when he says it. And it's so weird because it's like, I'm like, you did the thing. You're talking about something that you're involved in an ambiguous way. And because you know that people aren't really listening to you, but I'm listening to you. And I just saw you do that. And is it conclusive evidence of anything? No. But is there a science around reading body language that's used in like espionage, and it's grounds for a lot of the military actions and investigations that are put towards us by the government? Things like, oh, absolutely.
I mean, I don't know a lot about Sam Hyde's father, but I've heard his co-host Nick Rochefort say like, "Oh yeah, your dad is like James Bond." So I don't know if he's intelligence. I don't know what his dad did, but I have no idea.
Interesting.
I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, Sam's obviously intelligent, so
yeah,
where's that coming from?
Not a lot of dudes like you'll find in this thing like higher functioning individuals don't really like come out of nowhere. And when you meet like these really talented guys that you think you want to believe for a second they're like bootstrapped grassroots. And they just figured it out, like in the Disney stories where the poor homeless kid becomes a shining knight. But it's not like that. They come from somewhere in somebody. I've met really cool people at festivals, and I'm like, wow, you're so intelligent and charming and worldly. Like, what's your family like? Oh yeah, my dad works for Lockheed Martin, and my mom's in the Navy. And they do weird shit I can't talk about. And it's like, oh, okay. And I've run into that several times. I have. And in myself, I don't know details, but my dad during altered states of consciousness has told me things that basically he was doing weird places with weird people at weird times while not working for the government.
Emphasis on not working.
Yes, not working for the government. And so it's like, okay,
so he's kind of like hinting,
that.
Hey, look how clever I am, or something. That's like the dupe's delight. You said like, so he's like delighting in duping people. Delight.
Yeah, let me just pull a Google really quick so people can hear me read something and believe that I'm not just totally making stuff up out of my buns. Let's see, duping delight. Duping delight is the thrill, pleasure, or satisfaction experienced when successfully lying, deceiving, or pulling the wool over someone. Coined by Paul Ekman, this phenomenon often involves contempt for the target, excitement from taking risks. So that's when he's like, he's skirting that line of, I'm going to talk about,
He's done that. And that was part of his routine when he was kind of growing his brand at like the Comedy Cellar and stuff like that, where he would kind of like
whole linchpin of his fucking TED Talk.
Right. I mean, he's
like,
basically he's mocking the audience, which I think is valid. I think that's satire basically.
And the curators of the event, no, that is that's a huge oversight. Like looking at what he did there, he was like, yeah, I used basically left signaling verbiage and concepts. I made something up completely, provided no evidence to back up any of my claims about myself.
Right.
I just used like college speak and virtue signaled on an application, and they let me come out, and I stood there and made fun of them for like an hour. Dude, the chutzpah. No, I don't want to use that word. But
Courage. I don't know.
the audacity and the nerves it takes to stand in a room, an auditorium full of people, and roll your ball and BS folks like that, like unflinchingly.
Oh, sure.
That speaks volumes of that man's constitution and capacity for such behavior.
Yeah. He's talked
That
about
was
people.
always funny stuff. Yeah, I like that stuff.
I mean, I think it was brilliant, but I mean, if it's like
absolutely brilliant.
some con to like get us to consume CIA propaganda, it's possible. I mean, I don't know, but I think his overall effect and impact has been, I think, overall positive.
I'm a Sam Hyde fan.
I am too.
I want to go to Nick Rochefort's show. Him and Alex. I want to go see them next time they come to Portland. I missed them the last time.
Yeah.
I want to go see Charles Carroll and them, and I would absolutely go up and shake Sam Hyde's hand and hang out and look at him up close. I'm not going to sit here and say don't trust him; he's a bad actor, but he's interesting, worth watching. And,
I mean, I think he's a complicated person, obviously, and his whole identity is part of it is manufactured, right? But I think his life is kind of wrapped up in this identity that he's cultivated with a lot of success, and I think he's demonstrated with some of events like this that he's got the capability to do these types of things that take a lot of it's sort of like Ali G, like what he would do. Like he would like infiltrate all these groups, basically kind of like punk them. He's becoming more known now. It's harder to do that. So he's had to pivot a little bit, but his whole who is he as a person? I think he's like, he probably at times has to ask himself, like, who am I? Like, am I the Sam Hyde at Wigger account, or am I Sam Hyde, the kid who grew up in Providence, Rhode Island, or wherever he's from? And so I'm sure it's messed with him, and it's like,
It can. I think it's the opposite, personally. I think that who he is personally is very separate, and we have no idea because he's good at what he does.
Could be.
And I think getting to know the guy interpersonally, a lot of things are going to fall away, and it would just be this huge exercise in realizing just how much of his public persona is shtick and being like blindsided by who that person really is behind closed doors. Because I watch his stuff. I watch all their stuff. I keep up on Perfect Guy Life, and I love Scuffed Realtor. I recommend it for everybody. Nick Rochefort has a lot of really good educational information.
You know your lore. Yeah, those are the platforms.
I tune in live. Man. But when he like gives Nick the watch, when he talks about how the thing to do is just be an alt-right grifter now, and when he's got his weird character work, the stuff he did on Adult Swim, the TED Talk, that's going to be history. People are going to look back and study that TED Talk in like 20 years.
Oh, sure.
Because that's an amazing stunt.
Jennifer Aniston gives the speech at Rutgers or wherever it was. I know Nick liked that one too, but yeah, he's done a few of those. Anyway, let's conclude. What are our thoughts on this unfolding war? Are we gonna see boots on the ground? Or are we? I saw somewhere that I think that's the deployment of the logistical train in the Navy and the Air Force and whatnot, but I don't know if that's soldiers. But I saw 50,000 soldiers were involved in this initial opening salvo. Where does this go, guys?
Well, I think that they might try to do something from Iraq, but it seems like the Iranian military has that under control. It's not really clear what the plan there would be. I saw also like the Baluchis. I don't know if it was just
who's that?
The Baluchis. It's one of the ethnic groups in Iran that is sometimes oppositional.
Well, I think that is. I don't know. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. personally, I don't know this.
Oh well, they were
from
pledging allegiance to the Islamic Republic.
Oh,
but,
interesting. Well, what I sort of see it maybe unfolding into, you mentioned the Kurds, but what they tried and didn't really put much effort into, frankly, it seems, but they were speaking to the concept of using the Kurds as a vector to unseat Saddam Hussein, and they kind of just got left with their trousers around their ankles and no support, and nothing happened. And I would imagine that would be probably what happens here with this Iranian quote uprising. I'm quite skeptical it'll go anywhere, but they paid lip service to that concept. This is your moment. We're going to support you if you overthrow your clerics. We will support you from the air. That's the
my main question is what the off ramp looks like.
Is there an exit?
Zog,
I mean, is this, why is there an exit?
well, eventually Zog's going to back down, and at which point it's going to be up to the Iranians whether they want to continue to exact punishment. And I hope they do.
Well, I almost think on that thread, I almost think that from the Chinese and Russian point of view, they're like, bring it on. Get put yourself in another Iraq situation and suck all your resources away. I mean, the Iranians probably don't like, that thinking, because they're going to be taking the brunt of it. But, from Chinese and Russian perspective, kind of like with Russia when the Gaza thing happened, some people think they actually instigated that, but it distracted America from Ukraine. And I could easily see how, if we're drawn into this retarded conflict in Iran, that the Chinese and Russians are more comfortable doing what they want to do. So they would encourage it.
And the Ukraine distracted and tied up Russian resources from Syria also. These conflicts are related. It's not, they're not happening in a vacuum.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, stay tuned.
Well, I can just say, inshallah.
Well, thanks for coming on, Hangy. Appreciated your perspective. We're going to do another show with you at some point, but
awesome.
We'll stay in touch for now.